Continuing with the story, in the third season of Squid Game, after a failed rebellion attempt, most of the players who left the dormitories were killed, leaving only one survivor, Jun Seok, player 246. A guard, in an unusual act, saved his life by identifying him as an eliminated player through his chip. During the body transfer, another guard discreetly marked one of the corpses as useful, suggesting its organs could still be harvested. By voluntarily offering to work in the operating room, the guard hinted at wanting to gain the trust of her superiors. Meanwhile, in the dormitories, the players were shocked to discover that one of the coffins delivered by the guards contained Ji-hoon, still alive. Cho Hyun-ju confirmed his pulse, restoring a glimmer of hope to the group. In parallel, a team of detectives was searching for the island from a boat. Their captain dismissed an incident as an accident, citing a report of noises and disappearances attributed to one agent's alleged drunkenness, though another investigator found the event suspicious. The victim, the drone operator, remained missing, and while they believed he might have fallen into the water, they continued the search. Ji-hoon woke up confused and was devastated to learn that many had died. The guards then informed the players that only 60 participants remained, and the prize had increased to 39.6 billion won. Frustrated, Ji-hoon confronted the guards, demanding to know why they had spared him. In a strange act, he stood in front of one guard's gun, begging to be killed, but his companions restrained him. From his office, In-ho, the operations leader, received a call from the boat's captain, ordering him to delay the detectives until the games concluded. Later, a new vote was held to decide whether the game would continue. This time, players voted in reverse order. Ji-hoon, player 456, was supposed to vote first, but abstained, nullifying his participation. The voting process continued with the others. Afterward, a group led by player 100 accused Ji-hoon of manipulating events to eliminate others. Soon after, Seeyeon-nyeol, player 44, harshly confronted him, blaming him for the deaths. Distraught, Ji-hoon tried to attack her, but was stopped. In the operating room, Ul, the guard who saved Jun Seok, pretended to cooperate with the illegal organ harvesting. However, upon removing her mask and revealing her identity, she shocked everyone by opening fire on those present. After shooting the involved parties, she confronted her superior and confessed that the real reason she had escaped from the north was to reunite with him, noting his striking resemblance to her former commander, whom she had also shot. After a brief laugh from the man, Ul shot him in the forehead, ending his life. She then ordered the surviving doctor to try to save Jun Seok, who was gravely injured. During the meal in the dormitories, the players debated who was truly responsible for the recent deaths. They unanimously agreed that player 388, Dae-ho, was to blame, as he was supposed to retrieve ammunition but never returned, leaving the group defenseless. Meanwhile, on the boat, detectives Jung-ho and Bu Se-ok continued investigating the mysterious disappearance of the drone operator. Bu Se-ok suspected the captain, recalling seeing him with a screwdriver in the early hours. Though Jung-ho defended the captain, claiming he was trustworthy and had saved his life, Bu Se-ok felt something was off. Ultimately, Bu Se-ok decided to leave the boat to investigate on his own, unsettled by his conversation with Jung-ho. On the island, the next game began. The players were led out of the dormitory and, while moving through a hallway, encountered the bodies of their former companions, hanging as a grim decoration. A voice warned that this would be the fate of anyone who opposed the game's progress. To play, participants had to draw a colored ball from a machine, determining their team, red or blue. The red team was tasked with killing the blue team with knives, while the blue team received chains with keys to open rooms and hide. However, once a door was opened, it could not be closed. The game's cruelty sparked immediate backlash. Some players protested its brutality, while others were anguished at being separated from loved ones. A mother, Yum-ha, was separated from her son Yum-sik, causing great tension between them. Meanwhile, Nul offered to donate blood to save Yum-seok, who was on the brink of death due to severe blood loss. As the game progressed, some players began switching teams to avoid killing. Nam-gyu, assigned to the red team, sought an alliance with Myung-gi, praising him for killing Thanos. Myung-gi, in turn, tried to convince Yum-hai to switch sides, promising to protect her and her baby if she didn't want to kill. Dae-ho confronted Gi-hun, who regarded him with resentment. Dae-ho accused Gi-hun of blaming him for past deaths, but insisted he wasn't responsible, only delayed. Yoon-sik swapped places with his mother to protect her, urging her to hide until the game ended. Yoon-hae, pregnant and struggling to walk due to pain, was assisted by Yoon-ha, who chose to stay with her. Hyunju joined them, determined to protect them as well. Finally, Gi-hun made a firm decision. He would confront Nam-gyu during the game, no matter the consequences. The tension between them was inevitable, and a confrontation seemed imminent. The doctor informed No-eul that Seok was stable. Despite the terrified man's pleas not to be killed, No-eul eliminated him without hesitation. But as Seok began to stir and awaken, something in her expression changed. She leaned toward him and, in a low voice, promised to help him survive. Her initial coldness gave way to a new determination. Saving him had become part of her purpose. Meanwhile, in the facility's hallways, the red team began their hunt. Armed and focused, they advanced with the intent to locate and eliminate the blue team members, fulfilling the game's cruel mechanics. Elsewhere, Hyunju tried to open a door with her key, but it didn't work. She asked Young-hee for hers, which also failed. They then realized that by combining their keys with Gumja's, they formed a complete set capable of opening any door. They agreed that Hyunju would carry all the keys to streamline the group's movements and save time in case of escape. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon moved alone, determined to find Dae-ho. In one hallway, he cornered a blue team player but let them go upon realizing it wasn't Dae-ho. Then, peering into a room, he spotted Dae-ho in the shadows. That moment solidified his resolve. He wouldn't stop until he confronted him. Elsewhere, Myung-gi and Nam-gyu located player 235. As Nam-gyu prepared to kill him, Myung-gi suggested they do it together. This way, both would advance in the game simultaneously. Nam-gyu agreed, and in sync, they killed the player. This became their primary strategy. Soon after, Hyunju, Jung-hee, and Gum-ja were spotted by a red team member. Without hesitation, they began to run. In their escape, they had to climb stairs, but Jung-hee slipped, twisting her ankle and becoming immobilized. Gum-ja went back for her, and Hyunju didn't hesitate to confront their pursuer. After a brief but intense fight, she defeated him. Myung-gi and Nam-gyu repeated their lethal strategy with another victim, further cementing their dangerous efficiency. The three women managed to hide in a room where they assessed the severity of Young-hee's injury. Her ankle was completely fractured. Weakly, she begged them to leave her behind, as she would only be a burden. However, both companions adamantly refused. Their loyalty was stronger than any selfish survival tactic. Then, Young-hee began showing signs of labor. Amid the pain, tension, and desperation, she gave birth in the room. The birth of the baby, amidst such violence and chaos, was both miraculous and heartbreaking. The brief moment of calm was shattered when a red team player discovered them. Hyunju once again took the lead and fought him off. In another fierce battle, she managed to kill him, protecting the new mother and her newborn. However, her bravery came at a high cost. As she returned to her companions, Hyunju was stabbed in the back. The attacker was Myung-gi, who had been silently watching them. After seeing that Jung-hee had given birth, he felt he had been doing the wrong thing and left without attacking further, his mission fulfilled in his eyes. The two remaining women mourned their friend's loss bitterly. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon finally cornered Dae-ho as he had longed to do. Fueled by pent-up rage and seeking justice, he lunged at him, pinned him down, and in a relentless act, strangled him to death. With that act, he closed a cycle of personal vengeance. At the other end of the facility, Gum-ja and Jung-hee, with the baby in arms, managed to leave the room. They moved cautiously but were intercepted by Young-sik, Gum-ja's son, as they crossed a door. Distraught, with empty eyes and trembling hands, he confessed to his mother that he had to kill her. If he didn't, he would die instead. Heartbroken, she tried to reason with him, but the weight of the game and the threat to his life were too much. Sik approached the woman holding the baby, ready to attack. In a desperate and devastating act, his mother stabbed him before he could act. Young-sik fell to the ground, shocked and injured, unable to fully comprehend what had happened. His mother collapsed in tears, shattered by the pain of harming her own son. The guards, seeing that the man was still breathing but gravely wounded, intervened immediately. Without compassion, they shot him to end his suffering and officially eliminate him from the game. Gyumja, paralyzed, remained on the floor as Jung-hee clung tightly to her baby. Their faces reflected exhaustion, horror, and despair. During the body collection for processing, a guard was surprised by a player still showing signs of life. The attacker, armed with a sharp object, nearly injured the guard, but a female guard shot him down with precision. The danger was over. The relieved guard removed his mask, followed by his companion, who remained optimistic about the incident. Soon after, 2 more guards arrived, reporting that they had eliminated another player in a nearby area. There were still bodies on the upper levels that might belong to living players. With this information, the group set off immediately. Meanwhile, Myung-gi realized he no longer had the necklace he had taken from Thanos, which contained pills that gave him a sense of euphoria. Alarmed, he ran to the game field's entrance to request permission from the guards to retrieve it. His request was denied. The orders were clear. Enraged, Myung-gi began struggling with the guards trying to restrain him. Suddenly, a baby's cry interrupted the chaos. Everyone fell silent. Gyumja and Jung-hee appeared, holding the newborn. They had survived the previous stage of the game. The atmosphere became solemn and uncertain. Myung-gi was also surprised by the scene. No one knew how to react. Elsewhere, No-yul emerged from the operating room with Jun-seok, who didn't understand why she was helping him. Without fully explaining, she instructed him to obey her if he wanted to live. The prize continued to grow as players were eliminated. In a private room, the game's sponsors gathered. One expressed excitement about participating in person after years as a spectator. The leader revealed that their presence was due to a special invitation from Nam-il, prompting a toast in his honor. A guard requested an audience with the leader, reporting that the control center wasn't responding. He was ordered to check in person. Meanwhile, Detective Woo-seok informed Jung-ho that, after investigating the town, no one knew the supposed boat captain. Suspicions grew. The detective deployed a drone toward a nearby island, instructing Woo-seok to keep an eye on the captain. A new vote was called among the players to decide whether to continue or split the prize. The majority voted to continue. Young-ha, desperate, offered to forfeit her share to save the baby. She pleaded for a chance for the child. Her request was ignored, deeply affecting Gi-hun. In-ho ordered soldiers to the operating room to identify bodies. In parallel, No-yul gave Jun-seok instructions on how to act without raising suspicion. The vote concluded with 16 players in favor of continuing. Gi-hun's vote was again nullified for not making a decision. Soon, the disappearance of Guard 16, who was actually the surgeon, was discovered. Cameras showed a new wearer of the uniform, Jun-seok. An immediate search order was issued. From the sea, Jung-ho recognized an island where he had previously been attacked. He demanded the captain approach it, despite resistance. He eventually reached the shore, confirming his suspicions. His superior ordered him to return later with reinforcements. At the base, No-yul appeared behind her superior, aiming her weapon at him. She demanded authorization to patrol with Guard 16 and requested a boat. Though hesitant, her superior gave her the key. He also ordered a new inspection of the operating room, suspecting something was amiss. They considered the possibility that player 246 was wearing the missing guard's uniform. In the dormitory, the lights turned on. Guards entered with a coffin. To everyone's shock, they removed Youngja's lifeless body, who had hanged herself during the night. Woo-seok, inspecting the captain's belongings, found a photo of him with the recruiter, confirming a direct link to the games. Soon after, a Rottweiler appeared aggressively. It attacked the captain, who was forced to shoot it. He also discovered a jar of money and a guard uniform. This validated Jung-ho's story. However, before proceeding, the police arrested Woo-seok. A new game began. The players were taken to the arena. Jung-hee, unsure what to do with the baby, decided to bring her. Gi-hun offered to help and promised to protect them. She confessed her fear of being alone and that, while she thought having the baby would give her purpose, it had the opposite effect. In a private room, the VIPs discussed betting on Jung-hee. One said he had already done so, though mistakenly while drunk. The new game involved jumping rope, but the rope spun with brutal force. Players had to decide the order themselves. Nam-ju, suffering from withdrawal, asked a player to return his necklace. The player tossed it across the bridge, forcing Nam-ju to cross. Driven by desperation, he went first. Upon reaching the necklace, he opened it and found it empty. In his confusion, the rope struck him, sending him into the void. Gi-hun crossed while carrying the baby. Though challenging at first, he adapted and reached the other side. His bravery was applauded by the VIPs. From the other side, he shouted that he would return for Jung-hee. Another player crossed and, once safe, began pushing others who arrived, claiming he was securing his victory. Outraged, Gi-hun demanded an explanation. But the other players' selfishness made it clear that, for many, the game was purely about survival at all costs. The rope-jumping challenge continued, pushing brutality and emotional stakes to new heights. Player 96 took it upon himself to eliminate those who crossed the bridge, seeking a significant advantage. Fewer players remained. Some fell while attempting to jump the rope, while others were eliminated by player 96. He suggested to Gi-hun that if they were the last two standing, they could vote for option X and leave with the money. Gi-hun firmly opposed this strategy. As time passed, the bridge crossing grew increasingly chaotic, with wealthy bettors watching with growing interest. Gi-hun demanded that player 96 stop eliminating others, threatening to push him. Meanwhile, Jung-hee practiced jumping rope. Despite her ankle injury making it difficult, Myung-gi approached to encourage her. However, Jung-hee reproached him for killing Hyun-ju, who had saved both her and her baby. Myung-gi claimed it was an accident, that he was only trying to protect them and wished they could escape together as a family. He asked to help her, but Jung-hee showed him the severity of her ankle injury and asked if he intended to carry her. She also mentioned that her baby was on the other side and didn't want him near, nor did she want to see him. Player 96 began fighting Gi-hun, attempting to push him into the abyss. During the struggle, Gi-hun gouged player 96's eye and pushed him onto the bridge. The rope ultimately sent him into the void, eliminating him. Now, Gi-hun faced the challenge of finding Jung-hee and crossing the bridge with her. Jung-hee stood up, and Gi-hun shouted for her to stay put while he came for her. She replied that she didn't want him to return, as it would risk his life and leave her baby unprotected. She asked him to take responsibility for caring for her daughter. In that moment, Jung-hee jumped from the height, dying instantly. Elsewhere on the island, Jun-seok and No-eul tried to escape. The wealthy bettors remarked that including the baby in the game was a good decision, though some disagreed. The leader argued that the baby would play as player 222 in the next game, taking her mother's place, claiming it would make both the voting and the game more interesting. Soon after, two players debated voting for option X in the next vote to secure a large sum for everyone. However, the guards interrupted, announcing that only 9 players remained, with the prize now significantly higher. Each player would receive over 4 billion won. The players protested, realizing there were only 8. The guards clarified that the baby now counted as a participant. Gi-hun found himself cornered with the baby. The other players approached, intent on eliminating her, but the guards intervened to stop them. Meanwhile, Woo-seok remained detained. He told the police that Captain Park was the leader of a criminal organization and that all evidence was at his house. The officer noted that the uniform seemed childish and that anyone could keep that much money in their luggage. Woo-seok showed a photo of Captain Park with the recruiter. Despite this, the officer pointed out that the recruiter had only one minor record, while Woo-seok had several. The officer called Captain Park to report the incident and Woo-seok's alleged theft. Later, Captain Park contacted another nearby captain, informing him they had been discovered. Thinking quickly, Woo-seok retrieved his confiscated phone and called Jun-ho, revealing everything about Captain Park and what he found at his house. At that moment, Jun-ho heard gunshots. It was Captain Park shooting at those on the boat. Jun-ho quickly hid and grabbed some arrows. With one, he wounded Captain Park. Before dying, Park didn't reveal the island's location, but confessed he saved Jun-ho's life because someone ordered him to. He then died. On the eve of the final game, a guard informed the players they could choose whom to eliminate during the competition. A minimum of 3 eliminations was mandatory, though the group could choose to eliminate more. This revelation drastically changed the game's dynamics. Players began strategizing about whom to target. A sinister alliance of 6 players agreed to eliminate Ji-hoon, the baby, and Min-soo, the latter labeled a drug addict. A survivor on the boat with Jun-ho devised a plan to find the island, confident they still had time. Jun-ho had a hypothesis about its location based on Captain Park dismissing it as highly unlikely when it was the opposite. Meanwhile, as Jun-seok and No-eul attempted to escape, the leader, fully aware of No-eul's motives for helping Jun-seok, threatened her directly. Under this pressure, No-eul abandoned Jun-seok on the boat and returned to the island as the leader threatened to harm Jun-seok's hospitalized daughter, who had cancer. A vote followed, with the circle group's votes overwhelmingly favoring continuing the game. Soon after, Gi-hun was summoned by the leader, who revealed his true identity and gave him a knife, offering him the chance to eliminate all other players and win the game. No-eul returned to the facility, sneaking through a vent and navigating the passages to her superior's room. In the dormitories, all players were asleep, seemingly sedated. In the eerie silence, Gi-hun held a knife. He had been ordered to eliminate the players while they were defenseless. Under the leader's watchful eye, Gi-hun approached player 100. He held the knife inches from their neck, but something stopped him. A memory flooded his mind. He recalled a conversation with a VIP right when they handed him the knife. In his mind, he saw himself brutally stabbing the sleeping players, each strike bloodier than the last. Then, a figure interrupted the vision. Sebi-ok, player 67 from the previous game. She reminded him who he truly was and why he was there. Moved, Gi-hun stepped back. Unable to follow through, he returned to his place, visibly shaken. From above, the leader watched with a mix of pity and disapproval. Meanwhile, No-eul waited for her superior to leave his room. She intercepted him with a gun. Surprised, he asked if she had returned alone and if Gi-hun-seok was with her, reminding her that her mission was to bring him back. No-eul bluntly stated her sole intention was to erase all records of player 246. Though the guard complied, she insisted on erasing even the memories. Under her threat, the guard confessed that a printed copy of the records remained in the captain's office, accessible only by him and the captain. The players were summoned for a new challenge, an elevated version of the Squid Game. They had to climb pillars connected by thin platforms and eliminate each other in rounds. No-eul forced the guard to take her to the captain's office. In the elevator, he pretended to cooperate but soon attacked her. A fierce fight ensued. Amid blows, he restrained her and confronted her about her motives. She revealed she was doing it for Seok's daughter, hospitalized with cancer, and that if he died, the girl likely would too. The man challenged her, reminding her she had left her own daughter behind to survive. He confessed he chose her as a guard because she crossed the border, like him, believing she was special. But had he known her true intentions, he would have forced her to play as a contestant. He added that he too had lost someone he loved due to a lack of a kidney, something ironically abundant there. After saying this, he stabbed her in the abdomen, leaving her badly wounded. He received a call summoning him to another sector. Mocking No-eul, he promised her a painless death and warned that she couldn't use the elevator without his mask's facial recognition. But unexpectedly, the doors opened. Weapons from their struggle lay scattered on the floor. With her last strength, No-eul grabbed one and fired multiple times. The guard fell dead. On the platform, the game began. Min-soo, on the verge of collapse from withdrawal, started hallucinating. During the round, he saw Thanos hanging from the edge, offering drugs. He was about to accept when Thanos' face morphed into Namju's. Namju looked at him with pain, confronting him for betraying him and stealing his pill necklace. The emotional impact was devastating. The players debated whom to eliminate. Many agreed it should be the baby. Reinstated as player 222 after supposedly dying, they argued it was unfair and that she couldn't make decisions. They tried to convince Ji-hoon that protecting her was pointless, as she was now an orphan and useless. Then, Min-gi objected. He argued that eliminating the baby could provoke Ji-hoon to rebel or leave with her, forcing the others to face each other in later rounds. He also suggested that player 125 showing withdrawal symptoms was a greater risk. The group considered this. They approached player 125 with hostility. Confused, he apologized repeatedly, screaming that he didn't understand what he had done wrong. Finally, they pushed him with a metal bar. In his final moments, he saw Se-mi, his initial partner. The VIPs watched the scene with amusement. They then decided to eliminate Ji-hoon and the baby. They proposed playing a game of straws, where the shortest straw would jump. Suspecting a trap, Ji-hoon chose from a distance. One approached and tried to push him, but he was tied with a jacket by his companions, preventing his fall. Ji-hoon drew a knife and cut the makeshift rope, causing several to fall backward. One nearly fell into the void. Ji-hoon then cornered him. In a struggle, he stabbed him in the side, killing him. Myung-gi, holding the bar, pushed another player, causing outrage. He revealed he was on Ji-hoon's side. The others accused him of wanting the prize for himself, but he explained the baby was his daughter. He confessed he wanted to escape with Young-hee as a family, but she wouldn't allow it, and now he only wished to protect his daughter. The group doubted him, recalling he had wanted to eliminate the baby earlier. Still, they focused on player 39, beating him unconscious and throwing him off. Ji-hoon suggested deciding randomly with his knife, sparking a fight. In the chaos, Myung-gi threw another player into the void. Ji-hoon, retrieving his knife, killed another. Now, 5 remained. Player 100 tried to mediate, but seeing himself cornered, offered the beaten player as a sacrifice. Myung-gi, without hesitation, threw him off too. The time ended. The final round began. Player 39, on the verge of surrender, approached the edge and announced he no longer wanted to sacrifice himself. Myung-gi tried to stop him, but it was too late. The man jumped. The final decision was tougher than ever. Young-ho and the boat survivor captured Kyung-sok, who desperately begged them to believe he wasn't their enemy. Jung-ho demanded he reveal the location he sought, and Kyung-sok immediately complied. Meanwhile, only Gi-hun, the baby, and Myung-gi remained in the game. The latter informed Gi-hun they must proceed to the next round. However, seizing a moment of distraction, Myung-gi threatened Gi-hun, demanding he hand over the baby if he wanted to live. He implied that otherwise he wouldn't let Gi-hun continue. With resolve, Gi-hun asked if Myung-gi understood the implications, that in the next round he would have to eliminate himself or the baby. Coldly, Myung-gi replied he was fully aware. Outraged, Gi-hun reproached him for being willing to sacrifice his own daughter for the money. Meanwhile, No-Yul burned all documentation and traces linked to the participants. During this, she noticed her wound. The leader and guards pinpointed the boat's location, where Jun-ho and his companion were. The companion tended to Kyung-sok's wounds. Upon arriving, Jun-ho informed them he had contacted the Coast Guard, shared their position, and rescue would arrive in a couple of hours. Back in the game, Gi-hun warned Myung-gi that if he crossed, he'd have a chance to eliminate him. Distrustful, Myung-gi retorted that he wasn't naive and knew Gi-hun's true intent was to cross, kill him, and take the prize. He also questioned whether Gi-hun truly won last time. Gi-hun tried to persuade him, appealing to his word and reminding him of his promise to protect the baby. Following Myung-gi's instructions, Gi-hun placed the baby on the bridge and stepped back. Seizing the moment, Myung-gi used the baby as a hostage, dangling her over the tube's edge to force Gi-hun to surrender. Unnoticed by Myung-gi, Gi-hun grabbed a knife lodged in a fallen player's body. Just before the bridge fully shifted, Gi-hun summoned his strength and leaped to confront Myung-gi. It was announced that to start the final round, the red button had to be pressed. As the button appeared in the stage's center, Myung-gi realized he was cornered. He grabbed the baby again and threatened Gi-hun, but Gi-hun swiftly threw the knife. Myung-gi dropped the baby, and they engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Ultimately, though both hung over the abyss, Gi-hun prevailed and stood firm. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard arrived at Jun-ho's boat, alerting the leader and guards. In despair, No-Yul was about to take her own life. At the last moment, through a screen, she glimpsed Gi-hun holding the baby. The leader also watched intently from another monitor. At that moment, Gi-hun pressed the button to start the third round. After a tense pause, he tenderly kissed the baby's forehead, hugged her tightly, and gently placed her on the ground. With a firm voice, he declared they weren't mere horses in a race, but humans with dignity. Then, he jumped from the height into the void, leaving the baby as the sole winner of the game. With the Coast Guard's imminent arrival, the leader ordered an immediate evacuation. Jun-ho reached the facility by swimming. Upon entering, he discovered a running timer, revealing the complex was about to explode. The leader approached Gi-hun's body, then picked up the baby. But at that moment, he sensed Jun-ho behind him, aiming a gun. Sobbing and furious, Jun-ho shouted at his brother, demanding why he did it all. Instead of answering, the leader fled via an elevator. The guards scattered in chaos, trying to escape as quickly as possible. No-Yul remained undercover among them. Soon after, explosions rocked the facility as Junho watched helplessly from a distance. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure sneaked into the room where Gi-hun's prize money was kept. 6 months later, No Yul was at an amusement park. Jung-seok, unaware of her true identity, drew her portrait. She, who had saved his life 6 months earlier without revealing who she was, pretended not to know him and smiled, watching him enjoy time with his daughter. Later, No Yul prepared to travel to China after a researcher called, suggesting her long-missing daughter might still be alive. Meanwhile, Jung-ho reunited with his 2 former colleagues after Woo-seok spent 6 months in prison trying to rebuild his life. Returning home, Jung-ho was shocked to find the baby there, along with an envelope containing a game card and a debit card with a 45 billion won balance. The leader visited Gi-hun's daughter's house and handed her a suitcase. Gravely, he explained it was from her father, revealing Gi-hun's death and leaving some of his belongings, including the game uniform and a debit card. Finally, the leader walked away. Amid the city's traffic, he saw a recruiter practicing Tai Chi with a homeless man. Sensing his gaze, she made a subtle gesture, marking the definitive end of Squid Game.